My dad was a special agent with the FBI, so we traveled around a lot, from Utah to DC to Fort Worth and Dallas, Texas, all over the place. My mother, English school teacher, she immigrated from Denmark, and my dad would tell these stories. And of course, now I realize they were real cases about real bad guys. At the time, when I was a kid growing up, it just seemed like my dad. I mean, this was amazing what he was doing and telling me these stories. And then couple that with my mother, who was always correcting my English. How could I not become a writer? My hometown is Yakima, Washington. It's a small town in eastern Washington state, and we moved there after my father retired from the FBI, and then he took a job as a federal prosecutor. I'm proud to say I am third generation federal prosecutor. My grandfather before my father, who then became a judge. My father was an FBI agent, then a federal prosecutor, and then I came along, and I just knew I wanted to be chasing the bad guys. I went to Harvard Law School, which was amazing and scary, and I was a civil attorney for a few years, and then I had a wonderful job being a federal prosecutor in Seattle. And it was wonderful because the bottom line was never the bottom line. It was never about money. It was about justice. It was about doing the right thing. From there, I became a law professor at the University of Washington. It was just a wonderful thing to do, to be teaching kids, I call them kids, law school students. And then I got hired to work for the Democrats during the impeachment of President Clinton. And from there, a certain guy, a big tall guy, what's his name? O'Reilly something? He's named Orion, actually, in SNAPSHOT, William Orion. He's an investigative reporter in the book. But O'Reilly saw me, and he had me on air from Seattle. It was a good thing I did not see him, because I was not intimidated by him, because I couldn't actually see him. It was just a black box. And we just started fighting. And we've been fighting since 1998. Being with O'Reilly on The Factor all these years, we have changed laws. We have had laws changed in states because of the stories that he's covered. And in my little tenacious way, hopefully has helped that a little bit. A couple of years ago, my parents visited for Easter. And my dad is a fairly reserved person. He's not the most emotional, but for some reason, he brought two photos with him. And the first is of a little African-American girl coming up to this blonde white girl, and the girl is sitting down on a stool, and clearly there's a civil rights march going on in the background. And the second picture then is of the two girls. They're 4 years old. They're playing and they're sitting together and they're talking. They're clearly going to be friends. I saw those photos and I just knew that is a story. That is an amazing story, historical perspective. Add in mystery, add in what was going on. What did the girls see behind the scenes? Why was the FBI father taking this little girl to a civil rights march? You know, why was he taking pictures of these two little girls? Wouldn't it be amazing if these two little girls still knew each other or found each other now? It just was a story. It had to be told. Snapshot opens up with James Waldron, the FBI agent. He's at the civil rights march. He's brought his daughter. We'll find out about why much later in the book. And it starts out with the shot. Both the shot of the pictures being shot, James taking pictures of Lisa, his little girl, and this other little girl, and their backs are on this whole civil rights march. Dad, James, is taking the pictures. He's there as an FBI agent. He's supposed to be working. But he's taking pictures of his daughter and this little girl instead. And then another shot rings out, two in fact, where we have a civil rights leader who is marching in that protest, which you'll see in Snapshot in the actual pictures, shot down. Now there's a man on death row who is going to be executed within a few weeks, who is convicted of killing that civil rights leader. The FBI father knows it wasn't him, and now he has to enlist Lisa and find this other little girl to make sure that they get this man off death row. This book is the most personal book I have ever, probably will ever write. That's me in those pictures. That's another little girl. And my father took those pictures and gave them to me all these years later. I would love to meet that little girl. I would love to meet her. And if writing this book, maybe she'll see it. Maybe that could bring us back together after all these years. I would love to hear her perspective of what she saw that day. The photos are real. The scene is real. From there, it's fiction. But my father actually took those pictures, and I believe that there was a reason that's greater than I'll ever know, that for some out of the blue cause, he brought me those snapshots. Of all the pictures he could have brought to me that Easter, of all the things he could have sent me, why did he bring those 2 snapshots? Because there was a story that needed to be told. And there's only one person in the world that could write that story, and that's me.